Heyo, and welcome to another episode of the Darkives. I'm Jamie talking to Leo.
And I'm Leo listening to Jamie.
I'm going to give a content warning for all forms of torture and horrid things done to human beings. Anything you can imagine was probably done.
So we got a gross one here.
We have a very, very dark one today. I am going to be telling you about Unit 731, the war crimes committed by Japan during World War II.
Okay, I have not heard of this, so let's get started.
Unit 731 was an experimental task force set forth by Japan during World War II. There were several experiment locations, but the most well-known is Unit 731. It was a secret biological research unit in Manchuria, which is in China, located kind of at the top where it meets Russia, North Korea, that kind of upper area. It was operational from 1932 to 1945. The Japanese chose China because, one, they didn't want to do these things in Japan. Japan was a proper country, and the things that they were doing here were too gross to be done on the island. The second reason was they now had plenty of citizens to take an experiment on. Not good. The location would eventually be comprised of 150 buildings, which included an incinerator, an animal house, an insectarium, an admin building, exercise yard, airfield, and blocks 7 and 8 where the actual experiments took place. It had up to 3,000 personnel and could hold around 600 prisoners. So just a brief overview of the experiments that they would do. They were testing bacterial diseases on people, such as the plague, anthrax, dysentery, typhoid, paratyphoid, and cholera, among others. Those are just some of the tops.
So these were all things that Unit 731, were they just getting data on what these things did to humans?
Yes.
So this is a big testing of horrible bioweapons and
Exactly.
things like that?
Yeah.
Okay.
They also tested the effects of insect transmitted diseases, drugs, toxins, frostbite, physical trauma. They were doing every horrible thing that you could imagine a human going through, doing that to these people intentionally. And then the prisoners were then vivisected while alive with no anesthesia to see the results before the person was dead. Vivisection is, if you don't know, it's a surgery where they will just cut you open, and then it's literally used to cut down the middle to see what's going on with the organs and everything like that on the inside.
So like a live autopsy almost.
Almost, yeah. And they had to do this before the person actually died because they wanted to see the results in real time before the person expired, which is horrid and gross and ugly and torture.
So this is just testing what different horrible things does to the human body.
Yeah, 100%.
That's this whole thing.
Yep. So the first one, frostbite. They would submerge limbs into water and ice until the limb was completely frozen solid and ice formed over the skin. There was a little excerpt that said that it sounded like solid wood being smacked when it was dropped.
Yeah, I know you guys can't see my face right now, but I have probably have a pretty disgusted face.
Yeah, his face doesn't look pleased with me.
But no, it's yeah. Don't apologize. Continue. This is just a little. It's rough.
It's dark. This one's really brutal. They would then time the victims to see how long until frostbite actually occurred on them. They then experimented on the different manners of thawing out the limb, which included pouring hot water on it, putting it over an open fire, or just leaving it out overnight to see how long it would take to naturally thaw out. We did actually get a result, and they were able to scientifically prove that the best method was to put the frozen limb in water that was a bit warmer than 100 degrees, but never more than 122 degrees. That was the best method for thawing out the frozen limbs.
So I guess we learned that we can go around 100, but never up. We just stick around 100. Never go to up around 120.
Yeah, 122 seemed to have been the limit.
Well, you learned something out of it, I guess.
Very
This
little.
seems very aggressive
Yeah,
testing.
yeah, very little was actually learned from this. This was more just sadistic torture. No better way to put it. It was just
Well,
brutality.
we learned that.
Yeah. There were a few things that we actually gained from
I'm
this.
sure we're learning stuff, but at what cost?
Humans, a lot of them.
That's the thing.
Yeah.
Is it worth it?
Next was weapon testing. This included bayonets, swords, knives, chemical, and x ray. Flamethrowers were tested on covered and exposed skin to see how we react to that. Gas chambers were used to see the results of different blistering agents and nerve gases. X ray exposure, which would sterilize and kill people. Then just other stuff like, what does a bayonet do when it goes into your stomach?
Nothing good.
Not a good thing. No. So that was their weapon testing. They also tested the human limits. Prisoners were deprived of food and water to see how long they would survive. Crash injuries were studied by dropping heavy subjects onto bound prisoners. And G-forces were also studied by loading people into large centrifuges and spun faster and faster until they lost consciousness or they died, which usually occurred about between 10 to 15 Gs.
Oh, we learned something there. I feel dirty learning all this stuff.
I know. But it's important to talk about. These were real people who had lives and families and everything, and not talking about it doesn't help anything. We can't erase history.
Who were these Chinese that they were taking? Were they just random Chinese citizens, or was it prisoners? I'm not saying any of this is justified. I'm just curious as to who they were experimenting on.
So it wasn't even just the Chinese. There was prisoners of war. So US, Russian, Chinese, they were just taking prisoners of war. And then from the Chinese population, they were just experimenting on citizens as well, not just prisoners of war.
So this was all done on POWs and then
Normal people just trying
random Chinese citizens.
Yes. This one I'm not going to get too graphic on, but sexual assault and venereal diseases were also being experimented and tested. Women of childbearing age were forcibly impregnated and then tested on using different weapons, diseases, chemicals, bullets, shrapnel, all that. Men were...
Was this a test to see if you could save a fetus, or what it did to a fetus, or
What it did.
what it did?
Yeah. What it did to them. How would a pregnant woman, how would her body react to different diseases being put in the body, different chemicals being injected or breathed in? What would happen to the body while pregnant, and what would happen to the fetus? Men were infected with syphilis and then forced upon other prisoners until infection occurred in the other person. And pregnant women with syphilis were also of special interest to this unit, just to see how the fetus would react with the syphilis in the body, in the system. These women were then studied internally, including the babies.
Are they studying what effects like syphilis has during different stages of pregnancy?
I honestly don't know, and we will get into why this is not as detailed as you would assume it to be. The last thing that I'm going to talk about that they did was the plague bombs. Japanese medical officer Shiroishi, who was in charge of all of this, he pretty much oversaw the whole thing. He wanted to find the perfect bioweapon. What would be a great way to destroy a lot with a little, essentially? And he constructed the plague bomb. He loved the idea of the plague because of its high mortality rate. So he wanted to figure out a way to spread this far and wide if anybody tried to come at Japan with other biological weapons. He constructed a clay or porcelain bomb that was filled with 30,000 fleas infected with Yersinia pestis, the plague. It would explode and leave almost no trace, and the fleas could then leave the remains to go infect rats and people in the places where the bomb was dropped.
That is some real mad scientist stuff right there.
Everything that we've talked about is mad scientist stuff. This is all crazy. But this one, He seemed to have absolutely loved the plague. They would infect food by covering wheat and rice with plague particles and also dropping cotton wadding or pieces of paper that were contaminated with the plague. They actually did this in China, just to random villages, cities. They were fully infecting people with the plague during this time.
Yeah, getting evidence of what it would do if we just sent somebody in and dropped a handful of plague infested rags around the city. What outcome would it have of the city that we're trying to infect?
Yeah. They would also go into these cities and they would set up care centers so people could come in for treatment, and they were just doing their live autopsies to the people. They weren't helping. Unit 731 contained an estimated 3 million rats inside, with a lot of them carrying the plague. So when the unit was destroyed after the war, they escaped and caused the plague to travel to 22 different places in China, like counties in China, killing more than 20,000 people. This was after.
After the war's over.
Yeah, after the unit was destroyed. This plague carried on.
Was the plague?
Yeah, I mean, it's the plague. Yeah. I'm just saying the effects were lasting even after this building was destroyed. The people were gone. It continued to affect this country and its citizens. So, how did this all end? In August of 1945, the Russians invaded Manchuria, and the unit was deliberately burned down in an attempt to destroy all evidence, including the people inside. The Japanese burned it down, trying to stop the Russians from going in and finding everything that they did. The numbers vary on this, but just in the unit alone, somewhere between 3 to 12,000 people died. I know it's a huge gap, but low end, terrible. High end, terrible. There was no number that was going to be good here.
Yeah, especially with what was going on with the people in there.
Yeah.
I can't believe I've never heard of this.
Yeah. I'd heard of it, but I hadn't really looked into it, and I had to like go take a shower after. I just felt so horrible. I felt icky. No one was charged with any war crimes related to this.
I'm guessing it's because they destroyed all the evidence, but
No.
no.
The US offered to cover it up if they would share the results of the experiments. That's bad.
Knowledge is power.
I guess. But the US, like, they were essentially trading get out of jail free cards if you tell me what happened when you set those people on fire.
I get that there's some kind of usefulness to knowing things. I mean, there could be good things to come out of it, like the frozen limbs and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And knowing how to most effectively fix that be nice. I understand that there could be logical real world applications, but I also think they're so few and far between that I just wish that some of these things were things that we'd find out by it naturally occurring and not creating horrific scenarios to find it out.
Yeah.
I mean, it's one of those things. It's a kind of a catch-22, right? Because you'd like to know what you're up against. If another plague does come, then how do we stop it? How long do we have to do it? What effects does it have? How does it transmit?
Yeah.
And what it does in your biology? I understand the needing the knowledge, but I don't know, how is there a better way to do it? I don't know. It's just really messed up.
Knowledge is for sure power. It is good to know about these things, but to do it in the way that this unit was doing it in the most brutal ways possible. And honestly, some of it just seemed like it was just for the fun of torture. I don't necessarily think that these results can outweigh the crime that was committed.
I mean, why do you need to know how long it takes somebody's flesh to be burned off of them?
I might be ignorant, but I cannot think of a single reason.
Well, I'd say if for any reason you had to burn a person, burn them. Plague breaks out and they're burning bodies. Cool. Burnt is burnt.
I can't give you a good reason for the for all of it. They say that it was just for scientific experiments, trying to test things, see things, get results. They were wrong.
A logical side of me says that, yeah, I understand wanting that knowledge.
Mm-hmm.
I could see where that knowledge could help in non-wartime too.
Yeah. Well, I'll kind of get into that at the end.
But what I was going to say is that my human side does not understand how humans can do this. I mean, war is war, I guess. There's stuff in that, but this is more than just war. This is
torture.
This is just inhumane. Is number one. Like,
demonic.
Yeah, it's a different level.
Yeah. Dr. Norbert H. Fell, who was a civilian employee at Camp Dietrich, actually said, quote, investigation was to obtain scientific and technical data and was not concerned with war crimes. So these people, in terms of America taking any retribution or getting any justice for these people who were hurt here, they never put down any sort of consequence or nothing, because this was all just for the scientific and technical data. They did not consider this to be war crimes. Which...
yeah, mass murder. It's...
call me crazy, but I'm thinking that this qualifies as a war crime. It's a crime on humanity.
You said between 3,000 and
12,000.
12,000 people.
And that's just who died in the building. That's not including the plague victims, the 20,000 people in China who died from the plague. The Russians, however, did try 12 Japanese military personnel, but they got relatively light sentences, suggesting that the Russians and Japanese also traded information for leniency. I saw somewhere that they got maybe 2 to 25 years for all this.
Well, goes to show you that more than just them were interested in the results.
I'm sure everybody was, especially at this time. We're coming hot off the heels of the Second World War. Who knows what the future holds?
This kind of feels like if I was a kid. I'm Japan.
Yep.
Right now, okay?
Hi, Japan.
I'm Japan, and I'm going to way dull this down. I'm not saying these two things are equal, but I'm trying to draw some kind of parallel that I can make sense of.
Mm-hmm.
I'm Japan. I go into a store and I steal a candy bar.
Okay.
I steal a candy bar. Then USA goes, yeah, I saw you stole that candy bar. Now I can either call the cops on you, or you can give me some of that candy bar.
Mm-hmm.
And they go, yeah, well, we didn't think anybody was going to call the cops. I didn't think anybody would miss it. And then America's like, yeah, well, I will call the cops. And they're like, all right, I'll give you some candy.
Mm-hmm.
And Russia does the same thing. And then we're square.
Yep. Trading leniency for info. In 1965, a Chinese historian, Saburo Ienaga, I'm doing my best with pronunciation there, filed a lawsuit against the Japanese government because the Japanese were trying to, quote, soften their approach to Japan's excess during World War II. They were trying to kind of almost censor this whole thing, not really talk about it, sweep it under the rug. And this Chinese historian was like, fuck you. You guys fully decimated these people in my country.
I might be insinuating here, but there's a good chance that whole letting the plague out thing killed whole communities.
Yeah.
Decimated full towns.
Yeah.
Cities.
I mean, think of what it did back in Europe in the 1300s. It wasn't good, and it wasn't any better this time around. This went on until finally in 1993, Japan's Ministry of Education's censorship of the war crimes were ended. So this was kind of an ongoing thing of them trying to be like, no, we didn't do that. And this lawsuit being like, yes, you did. We fully know you did. And then they were finally told that they were no longer allowed to censor history. All this does not include what Germany or the US or what the rest of the world was also doing. World War II was buck wild time for anything and everything. So, did any of this actually result in anything? Did we learn anything that's actually useful through all of this? While obtained in the absolute worst way, some of the research has actually been beneficial to modern day treatments and medical knowledge. Not a lot, but some. The experiments on frostbite have been used to be able to treat frostbite and hypothermia, potentially saving lives. And that'll get you, that'll kill you. The experiments done with the infectious diseases have also aided in the development of vaccines. So that's kind of cool. I guess if we're looking for any sort of silver lining in this bleak horror story.
From a human aspect, it's one of those things. Like, some things are necessary evils, and it's just hard for me to wrap my head around this. Like, that's what I was trying to say earlier. It's like my logical side says how we could use this information for good.
And
But
the humanity side of you
my
says,
human side says
fuck
this is completely fucked up.
It is. I mean, it fully is.
How could a human convince a whole team of other humans to do all this shit to more humans? It's crazy.
So you ask, how could they convince people to do this to other people? A big thing that they did do was they kind of dehumanized these people. And they actually called them, I'm taking liberty with the pronunciation here, but Maruta, which translates to logs. They weren't even people.
Cut open another log.
Yeah. They fully just dehumanized.
Yeah, torch this log real quick.
Yeah. I don't think that I have it in me to completely disconnect like that, but that is an idea of how they were dehumanizing these prisoners enough to do what they've done. In 2021, it was even suggested that some of the research from this unit could be used to help with COVID-19. I don't know if it was actually done because a lot of this is still covered up by America, Russia, and Japan, not sharing all the info and all the stuff. But they were thinking that maybe they could figure out how to treat COVID or prevent it or whatever by using some of the data that was gleaned from 731. But other than those very, very few things, fuck that, fuck this, and kind of fuck those people.
Yeah, I mean, I understand that we've definitely learned from all they've done. You know, medicine. I still don't understand how people can do. I just don't understand people sometimes.
Yeah,
I don't get it. This is civilized people. This is a civilized time.
40s, late 30s, early to mid 40s. Yep. No, I mean, you and I ourselves are only, 2 generations removed from this? 3 generations removed? Your great-grandfather.
And this is how conspiracy theorists are born right here. Because this is real.
Yes.
And it's completely fucked.
Yes.
And now I'm like, what the fuck are we doing now?
Oh.
What the fuck's going on in the background?
I don't know. I can't even think about it. I'll spiral. And that is the horrific, dark, brutal, horrid tale of Unit 731.
This was heavy.
Yeah.
But I understand that this kind of history also needs to be remembered. With that, thank you guys, and we'll see you in the next episode. See ya.
Ciao.